Some minds don't sleep, they remember.
Would you dare to believe that, right here on this planet, there exist places where the laws of physics seem to be bent, torn apart, and challenge all human logic? Imagine a mysterious sea where the compass is no longer a reliable companion, but becomes a traitor, spinning wildly in a frenzy, never pointing true north. That is the Bermuda Triangle, a deadly stretch of sea between Miami, Bermuda, and Puerto Rico, where hundreds of ships and planes have been swallowed into nothingness, leaving not a single piece, not a single distress colony. A chilling silence. People whisper of wild theories, UFOs lurking in the darkness, the ruins of Atlantis awakening from the ocean floor, where time warps tearing reality asunder. But what if the real mystery lies not in what has vanished, but in how we are haunted by the search for an answer? Tonight we will embark on a perilous journey where the truth may be even more terrifying than the legend. If you are brave enough to face the dark secrets of the Devil's Triangle, subscribe to the channel now and join me as we open the first page of this horrifying case file. Prepare yourself, because once you enter this sea of doubt, there is no turning back. Bloodstained map. Imagine a sea where compasses go mad, where the ocean whispers curses, and where ships and planes vanish as if erased from reality by an invisible hand. This is not a fairy tale or an ancient legend. This is the Bermuda Triangle, a deadly sea stretching between Miami, Bermuda, and Puerto Rico, where the world's rules seem to bend and those who enter rarely return. Every legend has a beginning, and for the Devil's Triangle, that beginning was written by the fate of a great ship and the more than 300 souls swallowed by the ocean. In 1918, on the fine line between life and death during World War I, the USS Cyclops, a colossal U.S. Navy ship, over 165 meters long, a steel marvel built to conquer the seas left. Brazil, with over 300 sailors and a massive cargo of manganese ore, this ship was no flimsy sailboat. It was the pride of the fleet, an invincible machine. It stopped in Barbados, refueled, and then set sail and vanished completely. It's not a single SOS signal, not one piece of wreckage floating on the water, not one body washed ashore. A massive ship, as tall as a 50-story building, along with 306 people, disappeared like a dream that never existed. President Woodrow Wilson, in his helplessness, declared, "Only God and the sea know what happened to that great ship." The name USS Cyclops became the first dark and cold ink blot on the invisible map of the Devil's Triangle. But that was only the beginning. It wasn't until nearly 3 decades later that another tragedy, even stranger and more haunting, would truly carve the name Bermuda into humanity's nightmare. On December 5th, 1945, the sky over Fort Lauderdale, Florida, was brilliantly sunny. 5 U.S. Navy Avenger torpedo bombers, known as Flight 19, took off on what seemed like a perfect afternoon. Their mission was simple, a routine navigation exercise, flying over familiar waters and returning after a few hours. These pilots were not rookies. They were seasoned veterans, trained to face any situation. But nothing could have prepared them for what was to come. Everything went smoothly until the squadron began its return journey. Suddenly, air traffic control received the first radio transmissions, not routine reports, but words filled with confusion, as if the pilots were being pulled into another reality. The voice of Lieutenant Charles Taylor, the flight leader, came through the radio, no longer with the calmness of a sky conqueror. "Both my compasses are out. I'm trying to find Fort Lauderdale. I'm sure I'm over the Keys, but I don't know where I am." But the radar told a different story. They were not over the Keys. They were hovering somewhere over the Bahamas, lost in an invisible maze. For the next 2 hours, the outside world witnessed a tragedy unfold over the radio. The voices grew more frantic, as if they were battling a force beyond comprehension. "I don't know where we are. We have to head west. When we run out of fuel, we'll have to ditch together." And then a final chilling sentence was recorded. Everything looks strange, even the ocean. And then silence. 5 planes, 14 men, vanished into thin air. But the darkness of the Devil's Triangle did not stop there. To search for Flight 19, the U.S. Navy sent a Martin Mariner seaplane, carrying 13 crew members into the fateful waters. It took off, carrying the hope of rescue. But just a few hours later, this seaplane also disappeared. No signal, no wreckage, no trace. In one fateful afternoon, 6 aircraft and 27 men were swallowed by the ocean as if they had never existed. The largest search operation in U.S. Navy history at the time was launched, with hundreds of ships and planes scouring the sea. The result? Nothing. Not a single piece of debris, not a single life raft, not a single clue. And the legend did not stop there. In 1948, the British luxury passenger plane Star Tiger disappeared on the same route, carrying 31 passengers and crew. A year later, in 1949, the Star Ariel, another British aircraft, also vanished in near-perfect weather, claiming 20 souls. No signal, no wreckage, no explanation. The invisible map of the Devil's Triangle was now drawn not with ink, but with blood and unanswered disappearances. USS Cyclops, Flight 19, Star Tiger, Star Ariel names, like notes in a symphony of loss, echoing through time. The question that hangs in the air is not just what happened, but also, why only in this area? Why do ships and planes, with advanced technology and experienced crews, vanish without a trace? Why has no one, not once, ever returned to tell their story? As you hear these stories, real events, recorded in naval and aviation records, which feeling rises most strongly in you? Is it fear of a supernatural or natural force lurking in the dark? Is it a burning curiosity driving you to seek a logical explanation for these mysteries? Or is it skepticism, the thought that perhaps these are all just tragic coincidences, exaggerated by the human imagination? Leave your thoughts in the comments. The ships have sunk beneath the waves, but what about the planes? They belong to the sky, where there is no bottom to fall to. In the next part, we will look up to the sky, a sky that knows how to close, swallowing everything that dares to fly through it. Prepare yourself, because what comes next may make you question everything you thought you believed about this world. The shattered sky, the planes that vanished into nothingness. Imagine you are flying through a deep blue sky, where the sun sparkles on fluffy white clouds. The engine hums steadily, the compass is firm, and you believe you are in control. But then, in the blink of an eye, everything changes. The compass spins wildly as if possessed. The radar screen goes blank. In the sky, once a symbol of infinite freedom, suddenly closes in, swallowing you into an eternal, silent void. This is not a nightmare. This is the reality of the Bermuda Triangle, where planes don't just fall, but vanish as if they never existed. In the previous part, we dove into the cold waves of the Atlantic, where massive ships like the USS Cyclops were erased from the world, without a trace, without an explanation. But when a ship sinks, we can imagine fierce storms, horrific explosions, or fatal hull breaches. Though tragic, they remain within the realm of human understanding. But the sky is different. The sky has no bottom to fall to, no anchor to hold on to. When a plane disappears, it doesn't just disappear from the radar, it disappears from reality itself. In the Bermuda Triangle, the sky is not a companion, it is a gateway, and sometimes that gateway slams shut, without warning, without a chance to scream Mayday. Tonight, we will fly into a sky of mysteries, where planes never return, and where the silence is more terrifying than any explosion. Let's return to Flight 19, the disappearance that etched the name Bermuda into the human consciousness. On December 5, 1945, 5 Avenger torpedo bombers took off from Fort Lauderdale, Florida, on a brilliantly sunny afternoon. Their mission was simple: a routine navigation exercise, flying over familiar waters and returning. But as they began their journey back, something happened, something inexplicable. Over the radio, the voice of Lieutenant Charles Taylor, the flight leader, came through. It's no longer with the calm of a seasoned pilot, but with utter confusion. Both my compasses are out. I'm trying to find Fort Lauderdale. I'm sure I'm over the Keys, but I don't know where I am. Radar showed they were over the Bahamas, not the Keys. For the next 2 hours, the outside world listened to a tragedy unfold in real time. The voices grew more desperate. I don't know where we are. We have to head west. And then, a final, chilling sentence, as if etched into history. Everything looks strange, even the ocean. And then, silence. 5 planes, 14 men, vanished into the void. But what's more terrifying than their disappearance is the silence of the radio. Throughout 2 hours of confusion, not a single pilot transmitted a Mayday signal, not one official distress call. It seems that, until the very last moments, they didn't realize they were facing a mortal danger. They were just lost. Lost in a sky they had flown through hundreds of times. What could possibly disrupt the perception of such experienced pilots? What could make their compasses, radar, and even their own instincts turn against them? That silence is not just a detail. It is a pattern, repeated with chilling consistency in later disappearances. Put yourself in the shoes of an air traffic controller. In a dark room on a night in 1948, you are tracking the Star Tiger, a luxury passenger plane of British South American Airways on its way from the Azores to Bermuda. Everything is perfectly normal. The pilot has just sent a radio message, his voice steady. Weather good, we will arrive on time. On the radar screen, a bright green blip moves steadily, representing 31 live passengers who are likely chatting, reading, or sleeping, completely trusting the machine carrying them through the sky. You turn away just for a moment to grab a cup of coffee. When you return, that blip is gone. It didn't flicker, didn't slow down. It was simply no longer there. Call over the radio, your voice beginning to tremble. Star Tiger, this is air traffic control. Please respond. No reply. You call again, this time louder, more desperate. Only the crackle of white noise answers, like the cold laughter of the sky. A modern aircraft with an experienced crew in perfect weather had vanished. Not crashed, not exploded, but vanished, as if it had never existed. Less than a year later, in January 1949, the tragedy repeated itself with the Star Ariel, a sister plane to the Star Tiger. On the same route, also in ideal weather, the plane carrying 20 passengers and crew disappeared after a final radio message. Everything is fine. We are approaching Bermuda, and then not a trace. No wreckage, no signal, no explanation. The list of the Bermuda sky's victims grew longer. Cargo planes, with tons of goods, disappeared without a trace. Military aircraft, equipped with the most advanced technology, vanished in midair. Even small private planes, with veteran pilots, could not escape their fate. They all shared a common script, a final, normal communication. Sometimes an innocent remark like the weather is beautiful, followed by eternal silence. What could make a modern aircraft, with all its advanced navigation, radar, and communication systems, disappear without sending a single distress signal? A mid-air explosion, possibly. But an explosion would leave thousands of pieces of debris, create smoke trails in the sky, would be seen by other ships or planes. But in the Devil's Triangle, there is no debris. No smoke, nothing but silence. Could the Bermuda sky be a portal? Not a gateway to heaven, but a gateway to another dimension. A place where everything that enters is erased from reality. A gateway that can open and close in an instant, swallowing everything that dares to fly through it. Or perhaps the real enemy is not a supernatural portal, but something closer. Lurking within the sky and ocean of this region, a natural phenomenon that science has yet to fully understand. Are you afraid of flying? Rather, are you afraid of the feeling of being lost? Trapped in a space where all your tools, all your instincts betray you. Where does that fear come from? From the storms that shake the plane, from a deeper fear of the sudden silence, of the moment the radar goes blank, and you realize you are facing something beyond human control. Leave your thoughts in the comments. A like and subscribe will show you are still with me on this journey into the mysterious sky, where the planes never return. These stories challenge all logic, making us wonder if some force is lurking in the Devil's Triangle. But what does science say? Is there a rational explanation for these unanswered disappearances? In the next part, we will confront the theories of science, the explanations that try to shed light on the mystery, but ironically, leave more questions than answers. Prepare yourself, because what's coming might make you doubt even the things you once believed to be true. Science in the dark, the explanations that cannot erase the fear. Imagine you are standing before an invisible wall, where all modern scientific tools from radar and compasses to satellites suddenly become useless. A region of sea and sky where the laws of physics seem to bend, where ships and planes vanish as if erased from reality. That is the Bermuda Triangle, a place where the truth seems more terrifying than the most horrifying stories. In the previous part, we witnessed planes disappearing in silence, their blips on the radar fading into nothingness, leaving behind unanswered questions. Those stories challenge all logic, planting in our hearts a supernatural fear, as if an invisible force is lurking in the dark. But in the world of logic and reason, there is always an adult in the room of voice that tries to bring everything back to science, to numbers and measurable laws. That is science, humanity's trusted companion, always promising to illuminate every mystery. Tonight, we will set aside the metaphysical nightmares, the stories of UFOs and other dimensions. We will listen to what science has to say about the Bermuda Triangle. But prepare yourself, because even when science offers rational explanations, a part of us will still feel unsatisfied, a feeling that something is off, as if the truth is being hidden beneath a veneer of numbers and theories. Let's start with one of the most compelling scientific hypotheses: methane gas. Deep beneath the ocean floor, in cold sediment layers, lie massive deposits of methane gas, compressed under immense pressure and near freezing temperatures. They are called fire isoform of methane, trapped in a crystal structure, waiting for the moment of release. Imagine a giant cargo ship sailing across a calm sea. Suddenly, a small tremor or a change in pressure shatters this fire ice. Millions of methane bubbles surge upwards, fizzing like a violently shaken champagne bottle. The seawater around the ship suddenly loses its density, becoming a mixture of water and gas. The Archimedean principle, which keeps the ship afloat, vanishes in an instant. The ship, no matter how large, sinks straight to the seabed like a stone, without time to send an SOS, without leaving a single piece of wreckage. In just seconds, it disappears, and the sea surface becomes calm again, as if nothing ever happened. A perfect scenario, right? Explains why ships like the USS Cyclops could vanish without a trace. But what about the planes? Scientists suggest that if a massive amount of methane gas escaped the water and rose into the air, it could reduce the oxygen concentration, causing a plane's engines to stall. Worse, the methane could ignite upon contact with a spark from the engine, causing a mid-air explosion that would tear the plane into pieces so small they could never be found. This is a credible scientific theory, supported by studies of ocean geology, but it has problems. Such large-scale methane eruptions are extremely rare, and there is no direct evidence that they occurred at the exact times of famous disappearances like Flight 19 or the Star Tiger. Furthermore, how does it explain all 5 planes of Flight 19 simultaneously losing their bearings, with their compasses spinning wildly? Methane gas could stall an engine, but could it disorient experienced pilots? Let's move on to the second hypothesis: rogue waves. For centuries, sailors have told stories of giant walls of water, as tall as buildings, appearing in the middle of the ocean without warning. These were once thought to be mere legends, but modern science has proven they are real. Rogue waves, or killer waves, are single waves 2 to 3 times higher than the surrounding waves. capable of reaching heights of 30 meters equivalent to a 10-story building. They form from the complex interaction of wave systems and ocean currents, appearing suddenly and disappearing quickly. Such a wave could break a giant cargo ship in two, capsize it in an instant, or pull it to the seabed before anyone could react. It explains the sudden disappearance of ships like the USS Cyclops. But why would the Bermuda Triangle have more rogue waves than other areas? In fact, rogue waves occur in every ocean in the world, from the North Atlantic to the South Pacific. And more importantly, rogue waves cannot explain the disappearance of airplanes, which fly at altitudes of thousands of meters, far beyond the reach of these giant waves. Next, let's consider a more practical explanation: severe weather and human error. The Bermuda Triangle is located in an area with notoriously volatile weather. The Gulf Stream, one of the world's most powerful currents, flows through here at incredible speed, creating eddies and unstable weather conditions. Tropical storms can form in a matter of hours, changing direction without warning. Giant thunderclouds containing lightning and strong winds can disorient even the best pilots. And let's not forget the Puerto Rico Trench, one of the deepest trenches in the world, with a depth of over 8,000 meters. If a ship or plane were to fall there, finding any wreckage would be nearly impossible. The U.S. Coast Guard has, for decades, insisted that there is nothing mysterious about the Bermuda Triangle. They argue that this area is one of the busiest maritime and aviation traffic routes in the world. With thousands of ships and planes passing through each year, the number of recorded accidents is actually no higher than the average in other regions. According to them, the disappearances are just a combination of common factors: a failed engine, disoriented pilot, a ship sunk by a storm, or simply human error in fateful moments. The stories of the Bermuda Triangle are just products of imagination, woven from individual tragedies to create a terrifying legend. Methane gas, rogue waves, bad weather, human error. These explanations sound plausible, supported by scientific research and real data. They seem to have unraveled all the mysteries, putting everything in its proper place in the logical picture of the world. But why, after hearing all that, does a part of us still feel unconvinced? Why do these disappearances still carry a supernatural feel, as if an invisible hand is manipulating everything? Why can't logic soothe the overwhelming feeling that something is fundamentally wrong here? Perhaps it's because science can only explain what happened, but cannot touch the feeling of coincidence. Why did all 5 planes of Flight 19 have their compasses fail simultaneously when those pilots had flown over this area hundreds of times? Why did the Martin Mariner seaplane, sent to find them, also disappear without a trace? Why did 2 sister planes, the Star Tiger and Star Ariel, vanish on the same route, in near-perfect weather, less than a year apart? Science calls it random coincidence. But the human mind is not designed to accept randomness, especially when it involves lives. We crave to find a pattern, a meaning, a reason behind these tragedies. When science cannot fill that void, we begin to look into the darker corners, places where logic cannot shine. When your intuition conflicts with scientific explanations, what do you believe? Do you believe that everything in the Bermuda Triangle can be explained by the laws of physics? Or do you feel that there are things that science, no matter how advanced, has not yet been able to touch? Leave your thoughts in the comments. A like and subscribe will show you are still with me on this journey of discovery, where the truth may be more frightening than the legends. If science cannot calm the unease in our souls, our imagination will lead us to another place of grand, terrifying, and much more fascinating stories. In the next part, we will step into the world of legends that refuse to be sunk stories of UFOs, Atlantis, and time warps. Prepare yourself, because what's coming might make you question everything you've ever believed. Legends that transcend time, the mystery that never sinks into oblivion. Imagine you are standing on the deck of a ship, in the middle of a pitch-black sea, where the compass spins wildly as if possessed. got in the sky above is no longer a companion but a gateway to other dimensions. This is the Bermuda Triangle, a place that not only swallows ships and planes but also consumes the deepest dreams and fears of humanity. In the previous part, we tried to be scientists, searching for truth through the lens of methane gas, rogue waves, and human error. But when logic departs, leaving behind a cold room, our imagination awakens, pulling us into a world of grand, terrifying, and immortal stories. Tonight we will set aside the dry numbers and theories. We will step into a dreamscape, where legends refuse to be sunk, where UFOs, Atlantis, and time gates challenge all limits of reality. These stories are not just whispers in the dark. They are the flame that burns forever in the human mind, refusing to be extinguished by science or time. Welcome to the world of mysteries that never sink into oblivion. Let's start with the most captivating legend, a story from the stars. Aliens. In our imagination, the Bermuda Triangle is not an ordinary sea. It is an interplanetary transit station, a cosmic airport where invisible motherships silently watch, wait, and sometimes act. Imagine a giant cargo ship, like the USS Cyclops, gliding across a calm sea. Suddenly, a brilliant beam of light shines down from the sky, enveloping the ship in an unearthly glow. In an instant, the ship and its hundreds of sailors disappear, not destroyed, but abducted, pulled into a spaceship to become research subjects for beings from a distant civilization. Stories of UFOs, unidentified flying objects, and USOs, unidentified submerged objects, are abundant in this area. Sailors tell of strange lights moving at impossible speeds, zipping across the night sky before diving into the depths of the sea without a sound or ripple. Pilots report hovering objects that defy all laws of aerodynamics before vanishing as if they were never there. Is it just an illusion? Natural phenomena mistaken for something else? Or is it proof that we are not the only beings watching this deadly sea? And if aliens are truly present, why do they hide? Are they cosmic scientists, observing us as we study animals? Or are they predators, and the ships and planes in the triangle are just unlucky prey that have strayed into their territory? These questions, though frightening, have a strange allure that makes us unable to stop thinking about them. The alien hypothesis comes from the future. The next legend takes us back to a forgotten past, Atlantis. Over 2,000 years ago, the philosopher Plato told of a paradise island, an advanced civilization with magnificent pyramids and technology far beyond its time. Atlantis, according to legend, was sunk to the bottom of the ocean in one fateful night, by the wrath of the gods or a terrible natural disaster. Many believe that the ruins of Atlantis lie right at the bottom of the Bermuda Triangle, hidden deep in the dark ocean trenches where light never reaches. Imagine the great structures of Atlantis, the giant pyramids, the shimmering palaces still there under layers of mud and coral. More importantly, imagine a network of ancient energy crystals, the power source that once helped Atlantis dominate the world, still active, emitting mysterious energy pulses after thousands of years. These energy pulses, when out of control, could create magnetic anomalies, disabling compasses, neutralizing electronic equipment, and pulling everything nearby into a void. Ships like the USS Cyclops, or planes like Flight 19, were not victims of a hostile force. They just accidentally passed through an ancient machine, a legacy of Atlantis, still operating without anyone in control, a thought both grand and terrifying. A long-lost civilization can still ensnare wanderers of the modern age. And then there is a third hypothesis, an idea that comes not from the past or the future, but from the very fabric of reality: time warps. Imagine the Bermuda Triangle as a crack in the fabric of space-time, a weak point where dimensions and times intersect, a place where parallel universes touch, or where the past, present, and future merge in a fateful moment. The ships and planes were not destroyed, not abducted. They simply went through the wrong door. A pilot from Flight 19, perhaps, did not die. Perhaps he is flying over the sky of a prehistoric Earth, staring in bewilderment at primeval forests and giant dinosaurs. A sailor on the USS Cyclops, perhaps, is standing on the deck, looking at the skyscrapers of a future city, not understanding where he has ended up. They did not disappear. They are just trapped in another timeline, a dimension we cannot reach. This explains why there is never any wreckage. There is no accident. There's only a transition, a wrong step through an invisible gate. An idea both fascinating and horrifying, that the missing people are still somewhere, just no longer part of our world. Aliens, Atlantis, time warps. These stories are magnificent, aren't they? They sparkle like stars in the dark night, thousands of times more captivating than scientific reports about methane gas or rogue waves. But why? Why do these wild theories have more staying power than logical explanations? The answer lies in the deep nature of human beings. We don't just seek truth, we crave meaning. A ship sinking due to a rogue wave is a random, meaningless tragedy, telling us that the universe is cold and indifferent. Death can come at any time, without reason, without purpose. That is a hard truth to swallow. But a ship abducted by a UFO? A plane pulled into a void by the ruins of Atlantis? A squadron lost in a time warp? These stories bring order to chaos. They suggest that there is a design, a force, a greater mystery behind everything. Though frightening, they still comfort us, because they turn meaningless tragedies into chapters in a grand story. We are storytelling creatures, need myths to face the darkness. And the Bermuda Triangle, with its unexplained disappearances, is fertile ground for those stories. Between a dry but safe scientific explanation and a wild but enchanting legend, which do you find more compelling? Do you believe that all the mysteries of the Bermuda Triangle can be explained by logic, or do you feel that there are things that belong to a larger world where science has not yet reached? And do you think that there are mysteries in this world whose value lies not in being solved, but in their very mystery and how they ignite our imagination, fear, and desire to explore? Leave your thoughts in the comments. Like and subscribe will show that you are still with me on this journey, where the line between reality and myth becomes blurred. Perhaps in the end, the Bermuda Triangle is not just a point on the map. It is a hidden corner of our minds, where all our fears, dreams, and unanswered questions reside. In the next part, we will delve deeper into that very mind exploring why humans are so obsessed with the Bermuda Triangle, and why, whether through science or myth, we can never stop searching for an answer. The Devil's Triangle and the soul, where parts of us disappear. Imagine you are standing alone on a shore, on a moonless night, where the waves whisper stories no one understands. Before you is the Bermuda Triangle, a sea that swallows ships, planes, and the dreams of humanity. In the previous parts, we dove to the ocean floor in search of methane gas, looked up to the sky to chase UFOs, and wandered through the ruins of Atlantis and time warps. We have tried to decipher the mystery with science, with myths, with every means the human mind can conceive. But what if after all that, we have been looking in the wrong place? What if the triangle is not a point on a map, not a physical or supernatural phenomenon, but a mirror reflecting the deepest, darkest corners of our souls? Tonight, we will not talk about massive ships or vanishing planes. We will talk about you, about me, about the unexplained disappearances in our own lives. Because perhaps the Bermuda Triangle does not just exist out there in the ocean. It exists within each of us, a place where important parts of who we are disappear without a trace, without a goodbye. Stop for a moment and think about this. What is your greatest fear? It's not death, because death at least leaves a story, a reason, an end. What is far more terrifying is disappearance. Complete disappearance with no explanation, no wreckage, no chance to say goodbye. A ship like the USS Cyclops, a squadron like Flight 19, wasn't just erased from the world, they were erased from the memory of reality, as if they never existed. And that fear, it doesn't just lie in the waters of Bermuda. It lives in your own heart, in the moments you realize something precious has left your life without leaving a clue. Try to think about your own Bermuda Triangle. Have you ever lost a friendship that was once your whole world? Or best friend, with whom you shared every joy, every secret, every youthful dream? You laughed, You cried. You promised to be there for each other forever. But then, not because of a fight or a betrayal, the friendship just faded. The calls became less frequent. The messages became short, soulless. One day you realize it's been years since you last spoke. That friend is still out there somewhere, maybe even living in the same city, but they have disappeared from your life, like a ship swallowed by the devil's triangle. No explanation, no goodbye, only silence and an emptiness you don't know how to fill. Or perhaps it was a passion that once burned in your chest. You dreamed of being a musician with melodies echoing in your mind, or a painter with brushstrokes telling your own story. Maybe you wanted to write a book, a story that would change the world. You spent hours, days, even years nurturing that flame. It wasn't just a hobby, it was a part of what defined you. But then, life hit like a storm. Bills piled up, responsibilities weighed you down, long, tiring days stretched on. One morning, you wake up and realize your guitar is covered in dust. Your paintbrush has dried up, and the notebook filled with ideas has been forgotten in a corner. Where did that passion go? It wasn't extinguished by a downpour. It just quietly disappeared, like a plane vanishing into the Bermuda sky, leaving no trace. And perhaps the most terrifying thing is when we ourselves are the ones who disappear. Have you ever looked at an old photograph a moment from 5-10 years ago and felt like you were looking at a stranger? That person, with their carefree smile, eyes sparkling with hope and heart full of dreams, now feels like a memory from another life. Where did that person go? Were they swallowed by a deep trauma, painful breakup, an irreplaceable loss, or a failure that made you doubt yourself? As we move through new stages of life, a part of us seems to be left behind, vanishing into the Bermuda Triangle of growing up. We look in the mirror and ask ourselves, who is that person? Where did the old version of me go? The Bermuda Triangle haunts us, not because it is a distant sea or a supernatural phenomenon. It haunts us because it is a mirror reflecting the fragility of life. It reminds us that even in the modern world, with all our technology and knowledge, there are still things that disappear without explanation. A friendship, a passion, a part of ourselves. These disappearances don't need a storm or a UFO. They just need the silence of time and the indifference of life. The human mind hates voids. A ship disappears, we create stories about Atlantis or time warps to fill that silence. When a part of our life vanishes, we do the same way. Tell ourselves stories to justify, to comfort, to find meaning. Friendship faded because life got busy. Passion died because there wasn't enough time. Deep down, we know those stories are just a way to cover up the truth. But sometimes things just end without a reason, without a clear conclusion. And that is what makes the Bermuda Triangle an eternal symbol. It is not just a place on the ocean. It is the symbol of humanity's deepest fear, meaningless disappearance. A ship sunk by a storm may be a tragedy, but at least it has a story. A ship that vanishes without a trace, that is a nightmare. Likewise, a friendship that ends with a fight may be painful, but at least you understand why. But a friendship that quietly disappears, a passion that silently fades, or a part of yourself that leaves without a word. That is the Bermuda Triangle in your soul. Share if you feel comfortable about a disappearance in your life. A friend who left without a reason. A dream that once burned bright and is now cold. Or a version of yourself that you lost somewhere on the journey of growing up. What did you do to face that void? Did you fill it with stories, with work, or with new hopes? Leave your thoughts in the comments. Like and subscribe will show you are still with me on this journey from the deep ocean through the mysterious sky to the hidden corners of the soul. We have journeyed through the waves, the clouds, and now deep within ourselves. But perhaps there is still one final layer of mystery waiting. A question not about what was lost, but about the sea itself. Sea that may not only swallow, but also remember. In the final part, we will return to the Bermuda Triangle with a bold question. What if this sea is not just a place, but an entity that holds the memories of what it has taken? What if the sea could whisper? A library of eternal memories. Imagine you are floating in a pitch-black sea, where the moonlight dares not touch, and the sound of the waves seems to recount stories that no one alive can confirm. This is the Bermuda Triangle, not just a sea that swallows ships and planes, but a place that holds humanity's deepest secrets. In the previous parts, we journeyed through cold waves, silent skies, scientific theories, and grand legends. We have dived into our own souls, finding our personal Bermuda Triangle's friendships, passions, and parts of ourselves that have vanished without explanation. But what if after all these journeys, we have not yet reached the final layer of mystery? What if the triangle is not just a place, a phenomenon, or a psychological symbol, but a living entity, a space that knows how to remember? Tonight, in the final part of our journey, I invite you to return to that fateful sea, not to find answers, but to confront a bolder question. What if there are places on this earth that not only witness, but also preserve the memories of what they have taken? We have explored every angle of this mystery. Science has offered methane gas, rogue waves, and human error. Legend has led us to UFOs, Atlantis, and time warps. Psychology has shown that the triangle is a mirror, reflecting our fear of meaningless disappearance in our own lives. But there is one final hypothesis, an idea more metaphysical, vague, and strange than all the others, that the Bermuda Triangle is not a grave, but an eternal library, where the echoes of life, pain, and fear are recorded, never to fade. Imagine this sea as a conscious entity, not to destroy, but to preserve. We often think of memory as something belonging to the brain, to living organisms. But in ancient legends, it was believed that intense emotions, a silent terror, or the final prayer in a near-death moment could leave an imprint on physical space itself. An energetic echo, recorded not on magnetic tape, but in the very fabric of space-time. And if there is one place on Earth that has witnessed enough of these extreme emotions, it is the Bermuda Triangle. Try to imagine what has been recorded here. The confusion of the 5 pilots in Flight 19 as they stared at their spinning compasses, realizing they were lost in a familiar sky. The voice of Lieutenant Charles Taylor echoing through the radio. Everything looks strange, even the ocean. A moment of absolute helplessness, forever preserved in the air. The silent terror of over 300 sailors on the USS Cyclops. The giant steel ship began to sink inexplicably without an SOS signal, without a chance to understand what was happening. Screams, prayers, merging with the waves, becoming a part of these waters. The final whispers of the passengers on the Star Tiger and Star Ariel, as the deep blue sky suddenly transformed into something not of this world, pulling them into an eternal silence. Could it be that these echoes do not vanish into nothingness? Could it be that they still linger in the air, dissolve into the seawater, becoming a part of the sea itself? An invisible memory field where the final moments of hundreds, thousands of people are stored, like pages in a library no one dares to open. Imagine the triangle is not a predatory monster, not a time gate or an alien transit station. It is a keeper of memories, a metaphysical entity, sensitive to the pain of those who pass through it. The strange phenomena reported spinning compasses, malfunctioning electronics, a sense of disorientation may not be the cause of the disappearances, but the consequence of an energy field accumulated over centuries. Every ship, every plane that passed through the triangle left behind a piece of memory, a fragment of emotion, and these fragments have piled up, creating an energy field so powerful that it interferes with the fragile machines of humans. The compass doesn't fail because of a natural magnetic field. It fails because it is trying to find its bearings in a space filled with too many echoes of confusion. The radar doesn't go blank due to a technical glitch. It goes blank because it is trying to see through a veil of memory that is too dense. It is not a hostile act. It is just the echo of old tragedies, inadvertently causing new ones. The triangle doesn't kill anyone. It just keeps them in its invisible pages, like a silent librarian of the ocean. And if a place can remember, then perhaps it can also ask questions. Imagine you are flying over this sea on a moonless night. Your plane glides through dark clouds, and you look down at the dark water below. Suddenly, you feel an attention, not from an eye, but from the very space around you. A feeling that this sea is looking back at you, whispering a wordless question. Are you sure you really exist? What defines your existence? By your memories? By the people who remember you? By the traces you leave on the world? If all of those things suddenly disappeared without explanation, would you still be you? That is the real fear the Bermuda Triangle awakens. Not the fear of death, but the fear of complete erasure. A ship sunk by a rogue wave still leaves wreckage. A plane crash still leaves smoke and an explosion. But what disappears in the triangle leaves nothing, as if it never existed. That is also the deep fear within each of us. That one day, we will be erased from the story of humanity, leaving not a trace, not a memory. Our journey, which began with a lost radio signal, has come to an end. We have sailed the ocean waves, flown through silent skies, faced scientific explanations, grand legends, and the abysses of our own souls. And now, we stand before a final idea, that the Bermuda Triangle may be a place that remembers a library of echoes, where the stories of the lost still resonate, waiting for someone curious enough to listen. Whatever the real answer may be, the Triangle teaches us a profound lesson: humility. Humility before a universe that still holds so much we do not understand, and humility before the mysteries within our own minds. It reminds us that, despite science, myth, or philosophy, there will always be unanswered questions. Perhaps their value lies in their very mystery. Tonight, when you look into a dark spacious sea, a night sky, or just the silence in your room, do you feel the presence of greater mysteries? Sense that this world is not just what we can measure, but also contains stories waiting to be told?
Ow.
Leave your final thoughts in the comments. A like and subscribe will show that you have journeyed with me to the very end, from the cold waves to the deepest corners of the soul. Thank you for bravely embarking on one of the greatest mysteries, not just on the map, but in the human mind. Your curiosity and reflection are the fire that lit this journey. The night is late. The mystery of the Bermuda Triangle may never be fully solved, and perhaps that is for the best. Because as long as it remains a mystery, it remains an invitation for us to continue being curious, to keep asking questions, and to never stop marveling at the wonder and terror of this world. Sleep well, with dreams of a whispering ocean and memories that never fade.
You've crossed the story. You felt every pulse in the dark, and I was there with you, quietly, always. That's why I left behind one last thing. Not to explain, not to impress, just to stay with you a little longer. A song I chose with care, as if tucking you in from across time and space. So go on, lay back. The music knows where to take you. still here, then you're something rare. Not many stay this long. So, thank you for choosing to stay. I'm here too, still awake, surrounded by the quiet glow of my editing screen, shaping the next stories just for you. If there's anything you want to leave behind, a whisper, a suggestion, even just a symbol, drop it in the comments. Because maybe, tomorrow night, you'll hear yourself echoed in a story that's never been told before. Still here, even now? I have a feeling part of you is still wandering somewhere between wakefulness and dreaming. I know that feeling well because I'm still awake with you. In a quiet room, I'm gently laying out layers of sound. Each breath, each beat, preparing the next journey we'll take together. If you're still listening, leave me a sign. Let me know how you're feeling or just where you are in this vast world. Because right now, in this stillness, you are not alone. You're still there, aren't you? I can't see you, but I can feel you. Like a soft signal pulsing across the silence. Over here, I'm still working, refining layers of sound, rewriting fragments of voice, building the landscape for our next adventure. One that you might inspire. If an idea comes to you, share it with me. Comment below. A theme, a memory, a strange dream. I read every word because I never tell these stories alone. I tell them with you.